Sweeney, Managing Director, Jamaica Social Investment Fund. JSIF has been partners with the EU in our work since 2000, that's 20 years, and certainly we've been able to manage and implement innovative programs over the years working together. Social enterprises has come as a result of a further innovation with the ability to enable communities and the persons we serve to really realize their own dreams and aspirations in terms of economic livelihood. Our mantra is investing for community development, so we do have a focus on the community, but beyond communities, it's really made up of persons, and so collectively the group of persons that represent communities is what we focus on, how they're underserved, how we can help them to really provide for themselves and create opportunities for their own benefit. We have now taken a sort of holistic view to how we intervene in communities. So beyond physical infrastructure, we look at the social services, we look at social support, civil registration, those sort of activities that really affect daily lives of the persons in the community. We list as our beneficiaries close to 2 million persons across Jamaica. That's direct and indirect beneficiaries. And we really still aspire to affect every Jamaican some way, whether directly or indirectly. And so we continue to drive towards that goal because we see Jamaica holistically as a complete country, and really our ability to influence and affect the lives of persons here is what we aim to achieve. We really try to seek interventions that will see to their well-being and leave the community with sort of a holistic framework that they can build from. And that's what Vision 2030 is about. I mean, it's built on having healthy, prosperous communities. One of the areas we serve most, if you want to say dear to my heart, is the disabled. And many times we think about the disabled and we don't know how we can help. And I'd say to all Jamaicans that the call to action really is to reach out to the places where you know serve the disabled and see how we can improve and ensure that they have the opportunity of inclusiveness, because that's a big part of Vision 2030 and a big part of what we have to do if we're really going to embrace all Jamaicans from all walks of life. Our greatest reward really is the satisfaction of seeing communities, if you will, move from being underserved or poor or underprivileged to really having the full capacity to chart their way in the future. And so as we go into communities, literally hundreds of communities, we've seen where we've been able to leave these communities and they are able to sustain themselves. And I think that's the greatest reward.
My name is Marianne Vanstein and I'm Ambassador of the European Union in Jamaica. Jamaica may be a small island, but it's an important country in the region and an important partner for Europe. With its vibrant capacity, vision and creativity, with all the potential it has. It is, however, a country where there are still too many poor people, people with needs, people that need to be given opportunities, that need to be lifted out of that poverty. This is a responsibility of the government of Jamaica, but one that we, as the European Union, gladly assist in as much as we can, because we know how important it is. In fact, the European Union is proud to do so. Our poverty reduction program is one of our flagship programs here in Jamaica. It's a program that has run for almost 20 years, focusing on social initiatives, infrastructure, capacity building, training, and on supporting social enterprises in some of the poorest and most vulnerable communities of the country. Through the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, this program, financed by the European Union, has been successful in uplifting some of those communities by building on the creativity and the skills of those who live in them. It's all about using already existing but unexploited potential, getting the best out of people, offering opportunities where these are needed, and thereby help to build stronger communities. It is rewarding to see how the creativity of the Jamaican people has contributed to the success of the program.
My name is Ryan Holder. I'm a Senior Manager of Social Development Monitoring and Evaluation at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. The social enterprises and community-based organizations are geared towards the improved access to education, skills and life skills training, which promotes income generation at the individual and community levels. They focus on mentorship, guidance and training to foster independent, confident, self-sustained persons who will contribute to their communities and the society at large. The enterprises have been grouped in categories of entertainment and culture, sports, manufacturing, youth training, and special needs. Development within these communities is key to the success and growth of our nation.
Hi, I'm Celia Dillon, the Project Manager for the Poverty Reduction Program at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. Our social enterprises and community-based organizations work with at-risk youth within the communities to build their self-confidence through sports, mentorship, guidance, and training. They provide access to education, skills, and life skills training, which leads them to being self-sustained, confident members of their community, which is key to the success and growth of our nation.
Jamaica Link Ministries is a non-profit in Jamaica that began in 2001. Its purpose is to have a greater impact on the society through social intervention and to motivate youths to get involved and mobilize a network of strategic partners to equip them. Jamaica Link Ministries operates a base for short-term missionaries and volunteers, as well as sports mentorship programs. They have seen many rewards over the years, such as seeing orphans get better care. Under-resourced schools that they work with report improvement in their academic performance, steady employment for 5 families, and seeing churches increase their engagement with unattached youths in their communities. Support those who are most vulnerable through the Jamaica Link Ministries with mentorship or volunteerism. Contact them at 876-979-2648.
Boys Town was founded in 1940 by the late Reverend Hugh Sherlock. Started with the game of cricket. And cricket is a game that is played for the entire day. So he wanted to keep them at Boys Town for the entire day. Father Sherlock introduced football. They started to enjoy the 90 minutes of football. And while playing football, guys started to fight because it's a contact sport. And there and then, Father Sherlock also introduced the boxing at Boys Town. All of these sporting activities at Boys Town doesn't mean that Boys Town is either a football club or a cricket club or a boxing club. What we do, we are an institution that uses these sports to help with the development of the holistic human being. Our main goal at Boys Town is to produce decent, upstanding citizens of Jamaica, and also to help with the curbing of crime and violence in the inner city and the wider Jamaica. We just started a youth club at Boys Town, and these guys are very rough on the edges. You have to constantly be mentoring them, the way they speak, the way they dress. You understand? We have to take them downtown to get some clothing for them at times. It's rough in that area because that is what they see. When I go home at night time, I feel rewarded. I feel at ease, and that is what fulfills me. That's my purpose, to help with the building of Jamaica.
Support the Boys Town community by purchasing Coming Home to Boys Town and Boys Town, No Matter What We Build. 2 photo narratives currently sold at Bookophelia on 92 Hope Road, Kingston. Call them at 876-801-7614.
Hi, hello and welcome to the EU JSIF Entrepreneurship Virtual Expo, supported by Flow Foundation. This panel will discuss sport as a business, and our panelists are very experienced. I think when you add up their years together, you're going to get quite a bunch of experience. On the panel today, we have Christopher Williams, who is the gentleman who has been given the charge to, last year he got football, so he'll be renewing all the ties with football and making football the #1 sport in Jamaica. In the middle, we have Tanya Lee. She's a sports marketing consultant, and she has a number of athletes under her tutelage, and she will be transforming all our world beaters, and she has a few. We'll talk a little bit more. But Norman Peart, who is the other panelist, had been the first, what I'd call mentor, manager for Usain Bolt, and he has almost 20 years of experience managing athletes. Welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so sport industry is really one of probably the fastest growing industries in the world. And Jamaica, with its world beaters, have had tremendous success. Football and track and field, of which all of you have as common goals. Chris, you took over last year as the chairman for the Premier League football in Jamaica. How has it been, and how do you see football being repositioned as the #1 sport in Jamaica?
Well, first let me start off by saying thanks for the opportunity to be on this panel. And then secondly, let me correct you by saying football is already the #1 sport in Jamaica. There's no question. Everybody has either a team or a player or a country, that they support. And I mean, down to my mother, she's an Arnett Gardens, supporter.
Okay.
So the business of football is in a much more attractive position because it already has a natural consumer base. And so in taking over, what we really have had to do is structure the commercialization SKUs, I like to say. And by that we mean finding the various revenue streams that can flow into the sport. Mm-hmm. And we can get into those various streams, but the commercialization is where I have focused, and it is where we need to focus, because football is at an attractive place in that it already has a tremendous amount of consumers, and I mean, you just drive around the country, and you see people playing scrimmage every evening in every nook and cranny. So we are lucky. Our sport is lucky in that we're operating from a base of strength.
All right. Now, Tanya, you have under your management company Leap, Brianna Williams, Elaine Thompson, Hira, and Damian Lowe. You have 3...
Along with Michael Laharo.
Okay. All right. So 4 basically very strong brands. How has it been in terms of track and field? I mean, it's debatable in terms of #1, but in terms of context, how has it been? 2020, Elaine was nominated for the top female athlete from World Athletics. How has it been in terms of the transition from being an advertising and marketing expert in television, now managing athletes?
It's been an easy transition for me, and I think that's partly because of my background in sports, which started from as early as I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my father would sit me in front of the TV to watch West Indies cricket, and I'm looking at a Cuddy and a Kirtley. And so there was always a natural association with me and sports. And for me, managing the most watched sports channel on cable throughout the Caribbean for however long years, over 10 years actually, doing that, I think I had garnered enough experience. And it was something that I was often approached about doing. So I saw it as a natural next thing to do when I thought about what my next chapter would look like. And it's been pretty easy because I have some what I would consider to be, and I do think of athletes as brands in the sense of the job that I do as an athlete brand manager. And it's been pretty easy for me for a number of my brands, because while I would agree with Chris that football is certainly the #1 sport in terms of viewership in Jamaica, the numbers have shown that over the years. It's actually track and field that has a bigger following in terms of the athletes themselves. And so the brands are much easier to manage in that space.
All right, Norman Peart, you come to the table certainly with tremendous experience, but you have had one star athlete in Usain Bolt who continues to still do well globally in terms of representing brands. And you're managing, well, let's call them smaller athletes, for want of a better term. How has the transition been from Usain to now almost rebuilding your repertoire?
Well, having started with Usain, from ground up, it's a wealth of experience. And in this business, it's about connections as well, building relationships. And, it has almost, it's seamless for me now to move on to the other athletes. It's more for me to share with them what I've learned and for them to share the experiences of when Usain was struggling to when he got into his getting all those achievements and then to superstars status. So it gives me that, it allows me to sit and tell them exactly how it was, having done it for myself. And it's not hard. Performance is the name of the game. And that's what I preach to them, that whether you're pretty, whether you're not so pretty or what, doesn't matter. If you perform well, that's going to drive. You have to tell them what drives you being successful. And you have to explain to them that not everybody will be a Bolt. It depends on who you are, what event you do. And you just really to explain to all of them what it entails, because one of the things what I do with my athletes, I ask them from early, what are your expectations? And they tell you, and I said, no, that's not possible. So it's about dealing with the expectations and sharing the experience and guiding them. And I always say to them that if you end up with just a 1 medal out of your 5, 7, 8 year, 10-year career, you would have done well.
Absolutely.
So I really, it's easy, and I really enjoy doing it, because it's when you see a youngster, aspiring, have the talent and want to move on, and they're willing to listen. It works.
All right. Chris, we talk about transition. World Cup qualifiers would have been ongoing. How important it is to actually, at this particular time, be repositioning the professional football league in Jamaica in a time when I think, although we have come close in previous years, that we're a little closer to qualifying for the 2022 World Cup.
Yeah. The platform for the development and the success of the national teams, and primarily the senior national team, is certainly the Jamaica Premier League. We saw that with the success of the 1998 Road to France, where the majority of the players were local players, and the gelling and the localization of the team helped them to build the camaraderie to execute on the dream. So being localized certainly helps. We again see that in track and field. We saw the transition in our medal trajectory after the MVP, I would say, experiment that Frano did, and brought his camp to Jamaica, and suddenly our athletes started to stay in Jamaica, and then you started to see a tremendous trajectory in terms of success. So staying close to home helps the athletes to train better, to stay in their culture and feel comfortable, and then that helps their evolution and their performance. So what we have to do is ensure that by staying home, they have somewhere that they can execute And so we're just copying what track and field did. And what track and field did was that they had several all-comers meets and so on, so the athletes could constantly compete and hone their skills. So in football, we need to have several matches that the players can execute their skills with, and that is the Premier League.
Okay.
If they are in a competitive league, a league that can give them the viewership and the exposure, then they will stay and they will develop at a faster pace. So we see the National Premier League as the ultimate platform from which the national senior team, the Reggae Boys, can take off. So we have to build this gem, the Jamaica Premier League.
So although you have all come to the table with specifications, I think I'm comfortable asking Tanya, where the Jamaican footballers are now spread, I think we have the highest numbers of players playing globally at a time when the Premier League is repositioning and so on. How do you think that will impact on even the final product that, looks toward the World Cup qualifications?
First of all, I think that, I've managed a lot of competitions and leagues in Jamaica, right across all levels of football here. I've done the same in Trinidad and Tobago, and same with track and field. And I think if I'm to compare the two, what you'll realize is that where it relates to football, some of the infrastructure that you require to be at world-class level where we have our track and field athletes, we don't have it yet in the football space. I think in terms of the level of coaching that you'll get from a Glenn Mills and a Stephen Francis and many other coaches who are doing quite well in Jamaica, even now in the field events, what we're seeing happening there, these are really people who can position our athletes to be world number ones. And that still needs to happen in the football space. So there is tremendous work to be done. I think what Chris is doing now, along with Professional Football Jamaica, is absolutely tremendous, because we are now taking local football to a more professional level. I think it's been at a semi-professional space for quite some time. And that's going to be critical for us in terms of how we get back to a World Cup and what we do. Certainly, we know that Jamaica has a talent. We've never been lacking there, but I think what I think needs to happen now is that we continue to push that professionalism. We continue to get the capacities of our football coaches to where it needs to be, so that more of our players can stay locally. Because you're right, when I look at the US MLS a couple of years ago, I realized that per capita, Jamaica actually had more players in the US MLS than even the US itself. So we do export a lot of talent. Even one of my athletes, Damian Lowe, now he's playing his trade in Egypt. And they looked over and said to him, anybody else? And there came another Jamaican. So we now have 2 Jamaicans in Egypt in the space of a month. And so there is potential for us to develop our local program more. And it's a huge step in the right direction, what Chris and the team have been able to do so far.
So, and so the question now to Norman is really, all right, so you have athletes that want to make the transition from high school or college to professional. How, in terms of your own advice, how important it is for them to understand the context in which they're going? Because as Tanya said, the talent is there. And so the transition now to elite, you can come fresh out of high school in most sports and get on a team or track and field. How important is your kind of work with athletes to help them to make that transition?
Okay, so track and field is an individual sport as compared to a football that you depend on a team synergy and stuff like that. And they have various ways that they can get out there. As I mentioned earlier, it's about performance. The thing is, I look at all the risk factors based on who the athlete, where they are, and where they need to be. I sit and I discuss with them and I say, let's look at the risk factors. And we work things out. We calculate things out to say, we work, say, a year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. The decision to go pro is always one of the, areas that people, always have a difficulty with. And you can make a bad decision sometimes, and you can make a good decision, or a great one. It's important you have the persons who understand what is happening, what needs to happen, and
the support team,
where you want to go, because most athletes, even in other sports, you may have an average 8-year span is for you to plan those years. But the thing of transitioning, whether you go pro out of high school, whether you go to college, you can't lose in any way, because I want to say that track and field is a sport, an individual sport. It's one of the best sports suited for you to be professional while you're studying. And I'll just explain why. Because when you're a professional athlete, outdoor running is what matters. When you're in college, you're on scholarship, you have to peak for indoors, you have to peak for outdoors. When you are a professional now, you pretty much have to start competing end of April, into May. Pretty much your exams would have finished. Right. By college standards, and you have that summer to do whatever you want to do. You decide when you want to stop running, as opposed to a football. It's a little more trickier because you have to play the rounds, But it's a lot to deal with in terms of the different risk factors and the personalities and where you want to go. It's not a one line to say this is it. You have to sit and look at the situation and understand where you want to go. As I said before, the expectations.
Right. All right, Tanya, I see you chomping at the bits to jump in.
Yeah, I am, because even in track and field now, I think it's not so much whether you're going pro or you're going into further education. You can do both at the same time. I have athletes who are doing both. Because now with the advent of online schooling, especially after what we saw last year with COVID-19 and the adjustments which have had to be made, what you find is that athletes are now opting into going onto online courses, online education, and they're performing professionally, because that window is so narrow. And if you have the talent, I'd say you go for it and you do both and you see where you go with it. There are so many examples in sports these days. It started from a Kobe Bryant and a Shaquille O'Neal that just went straight into the NBA. Right now, Shaq has a PhD.
Right.
So,
take a break. Sorry to cut you, but
yes,
people have this thing that you can take your time. Like, you can finish your degree in 6, 7 years.
Absolutely.
So if you're into sport, you can do football, you can take your breaks. Me personally, there's a downtime. I just finished a 3-month course in project management, because I'm of a downtime.
Right.
But you can take your breaks. You don't have to run straight because if the time comes for your sport to say, after 2 years in college, I'm at my peak, I can get an Olympic medal. Take a break and get back.
Then you can go back to school.
Or as I'm saying, you're doing it simultaneously. So that's the option.
Right. And I think more and more of our athletes are matriculating better for higher education. I want to talk a little bit about revenue streams. Chris brought that up because football has the numbers, and some of the other sports have quality, but the gaps are wide. In terms of football, though, because you have the numbers, what are some of the revenue streams that you see the professional league capitalizing on to make sure that there are financial resources, to help the team?
Perfect. We have identified 7, and those 7 are broken into 2 consumer categories, corporate and individual. For the corporates, we are zoned in on different layers of sponsorship, presenting, league, club, and then we have, because of the nature of the sport and the fact that people want to consume it at home, we have broadcast, and then out of the broadcast, you now have advertising spots. So those are the 5 streams of revenue that can flow to us at the PFJL from the corporates. And then on the individual side, we have merchandise and we have gate. We have paying for the game and coming to view it live. So those are the 2 areas where we're zoned in on for the individual side. So those are our 7 revenue streams, or 7 SKUs, and it is now up to us to value each one and then to market and sell each one.
All right, so Jamaicans have a tremendous love for the external teams. And I think pretty much all of us, if I went around the panel, I could find who supports what team. Some have multiple teams, all of that. And I won't get into that because I'm sure JSIF and EU would not want to have us have a Premier League discussion on this panel. However, I'm interested in the plan for the merchandise. As somebody who travels and do a lot of things, I have probably 25 Jamaican shirts, and I feel proud everywhere that I go. I don't have a Jamaican athlete, and I use athlete broadly, of any kind. No, 2021, that I want to wear on the back of the shirt. And I'm not saying it in any way, but in other words, what is it that you guys are going to do to ensure that the marketing around that is, because you know we like personalities. So we are going to wear a Chris Willis shirt. Now we start put our own names on our Premier League shirts. How is it? What is the plan? I really would like to hear about
Broadcast. The reason why EPL, and I noticed you said Premier League in the question, which hints at Premier League, which is English Premier League.
Okay.
So what has happened is that the broadcasting, production, and distribution for EPL has ruled the world. They have outstripped La Liga, they have outstripped Bundesliga, and certainly all the South American leagues and so on. And so it comes down to ensuring that the entertainment product of football is packaged and is distributed attractively and efficiently so that you sitting at home get excited when you see the goal of the match and the little snippet and the sound and everything, and then you fall in love with the team.
I want a player to fall in love with. I want a Jamaican player.
Well, no. First, you fall in love with the team, and then you pick a player, and so on. But hold on.
Sometimes it's the other way around.
Or sometimes it's the other way. So, but the most important point is that we have to get the product advertised.
Yeah.
And so social. When I say broadcast, I don't necessarily just mean television.
Absolutely.
So social, everything. So we have to. Just speaking on behalf of the Jamaica Premier League, we have to ensure that our product is packaged and marketed and distributed every single solitary day of the week so that it becomes second nature to you. And then you want it, and then the players can piggyback on that. Right. Because now you will see the goal every week. You see Alex Marshall scoring a wicked goal.
Yeah.
So then you say, boy, I love Alex Marshall. I want Alex Marshall's shirt.
Okay. I know, Tanya.
Yeah, all right. So one of the things, and I've been doing this for a couple of years, and there are some things that I normally do when I have a football competition that's in front of me, and I have to look at how I promote it, how I broadcast it, how I develop the players. And it's really a 360. You have to look at it from all angles. So what was important for even some local competitions, if you get into the space of merchandising and looking at the athlete as a brand, is to look at it in full. So you have a football competition. The first thing you have to ensure that happens is that the players are a part of the promotion of that competition. So one of the things I would do if I'm managing one is to get them in. I want the top faces in from, say, schoolboy football level or whatever, and I want them in a photo shoot, bright lights, flashing cameras, because that's how you see a Messi and a CR7. So they're a part of the selling process, and it's very important that they do their interviews, the post-match interviews. They have to be a part of it. It's not just about the coaches. And I believe that even at Sportsmax, one of the things that we used to do was once we take on a football competition, we ensure that the names of the players are on the back of the jerseys. That was something that was new in the local landscape because, you'd be wondering who is the number 9, and you say, boy, the number 11, bad enough. And you don't have a name on it to say to you the number 11 is X or Y player.
Yeah, but if cricket can have names on the back of shirts, no.
Any
sport can change.
That was definitely something. So it's every single thing that goes from exactly what happened when somebody walked into the stadium, because we have it. I remember once I did, and it was I was promoting a local competition, and I went to Arnett Gardens, and I had a magazine that I had printed. And I started to give it out in the crowd and didn't realize that a Waterhouse player was on it, somebody from Boys Town. There was nobody from Arnett Gardens. And I just saw my magazine sailing through the crowd and nobody wanted it because where is my player? Where is my team?
Where is my team?
So the ability for merchandising is there. It's just to widen it and to ensure that what we do going forward, we have that 360 approach.
All right. So, Norman, I take you back to track and field. You know, so we had limited competitions. MVP was very, what I'd call innovative in hosting a series of track meets last year. And I think Elaine benefited from that. So she had, you know, incredible performances. For 2021, what is it that what's your ideal situation for track and field to be able to, not necessarily just the Olympics, but certainly for our athletes to continue to thrive? What is your ideal as a manager, agent?
Boy, that's a tough one for 2021. We're always jealous of football. Football just has that package and everything. But it's an individual sport, and as you can, from you saying being in the sport, it was a case of, you said it earlier, a player, you know, and player meaning the same athlete, would have been the star of the show, and he would have been, you know, getting all the TV coverage and stuff and keeping the sport, you know. So not so much of a star now, and you know, the sports has its problem, but I'm just speaking generally for sports, and from a Jamaica point of view, I find when I travel, it's about the brand Jamaica that really sells to begin with. That's outside, because track and field happens in Europe, really. And that's what you need to push a lot, the brand, because like when you go to major competitions, I have people half my size who want to exchange my Jamaica shirt with them, you know.
I want to get Chris started, please.
You know. But one of the things I want to say about, and Chris mentioned the EPL being the big guy, all right, is that the EPL started many years ago. We have to build.
Yeah.
We have to build, because I said the brand Jamaica is very strong, very strong. And we have to build it. That will happen overnight. And it will take a case where years from now, myself and Chris, our grandfather, sitting down in a stadium, buying merchandise. It's going to take time to build. It can work because it's about building something. It's nothing else more than building. I can't emphasize it because we're
You'll
still
probably be parked in your electric car over the stadium.
Exactly, right, because we're still in the infancy stage. We're still in
okay.
the infancy stage where it's concerned. So we have to build. That's all I can say, build.
Technology and its importance, because you know we're coming close to the end of the program. You talk about advertising, promotion, and so on, and with all these smartphones, everybody know. Any plans along that line in terms of consumption?
Technology is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
It is the great equalizer, because the challenge before was that you had 4 or 5 big television distributors, and if you couldn't crack into those distributors, you couldn't get your product.
You couldn't get your sport, right? That's true.
Your product out there. So it's all of a sudden now, you don't need them. You can just establish a YouTube channel or stream on an app, and you are now bypassing that and going straight to the consumer. So that allows us as smaller leagues with less budgets to be able to get into wider markets. So when we are now marketing the Jamaica Premier League, and I want to keep saying the name, because what Norman said is that the Jamaica brand is huge. Right. So we're not saying National Premier League anymore. We're saying Jamaica Premier League. We want to latch on to that brand. But now we are now looking at marketing to the UK, to the New York.
The diaspora, essentially.
The diaspora, because all of them come from a community and them still have them connections to Arnett or Waterhouse or Mount Pleasant, and so them still have them team, And so we are now able to say to our sponsors that our reach is wider than the 3 million people right here on the soil, and so that I'm so happy that we have this technology evolution that's taking place, because it just breaks the barrier down and allows us to compete. Because otherwise, from that, boy, we would have to be at the doorstep of Sky or or whatever, and begging them to to air us.
It's funny because the CPL last year won an international award using social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that they said, because they had like an extra million followers, but what was really critical about it is how they broke up the little clips and so on. So for example, you remember when Usain did his Gatorade Institute thing, we want to see, Usain took 42 steps to win the 100.
Yes.
We want to know how much steps Elaine take, We want to know.
If you ever go onto like YouTube and randomly pull up a video, you realize that I looked the other day and I saw some crazy numbers on something like the best of Brianna Williams, just running races. On her Facebook, who had put up a video with her, actually Atta placed that video, and Atta likes to come back and say, Tanya, look at this. That's her coach, Atta Bolden, by the way. Right. And he said, look at this. The last time we looked at it, we were somewhere close to 5 million views of her jumping off the Spanish bridge. People love Jamaica, and they're so interested in the brand.
I saw that video, yes.
You saw that
Yes.
video. Everybody saw it.
Yes.
And that's the thing about it, that we now in the digital space are able to do so much more. It's so useful too for building athlete brands, because now you get to have your one-on-one with your fans. You're engaging with them in real time, and you get a feel for what they're thinking. You're able to inspire and motivate them as they wake up. You're putting up your training video. You're speaking to them directly and engaging. And it helps you as well. So that digital and social space allows us to strategize. Because even for all my athletes, there is a plan, and it's not by chance. We've already decided that I have plans up to June of next year. I know exactly what it is that we'll be doing and how we're going to be executing. Okay. And because that's such an important space now, globally.
I think one of the things, Anandilo was a fabulous player. His son is obviously, really honing his skills, developing into a nice athlete. But now he has social media. I see him trying a thing, every now and again, him bust a nice tweet or post on Instagram and that kind of thing. And we want to encourage, that kind of thing among our athletes. Just to wrap up though, guys, in terms of the business of sport and Jamaica, where do you see us in the next probably 5 years? Because, we have been there, done that. Usain would have retired. We're still having the reggae boys, but there is still something that, what is the edge? What do you want to see? What's your ultimate goal for Jamaica's business of sport?
I come down to broadcast, because I think that we already have a great brand. We're Jamaica, and we know people around the world gravitate to us.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is to produce, market, and distribute. Right? So the production, we have to have an excellent production team, getting the footage, editing it, putting it together attractively. We have to market it. We have to do the online, the boosting, everything. And then we have to distribute it, and that is your YouTube, your Facebook, your IG, your Snap, your TikTok, everything. You have to be.
Very good, Chris. I'm so proud of you. What's your ultimate, Tanya?
I think I agree with everything Chris just said, and I'll just add to that strategic planning, long-term strategic planning is very important, and I think that's what's missing in what we're doing. So often we see leagues, competitions that come about, and they have a tremendous impact on the spectator base, and then nothing after that. We have a lot of examples of that in sports in Jamaica. And even for athletes, what was the plan after Usain Bolt with that gaping hole that has been left in Jamaica's track and field on the male side? I think strategic planning is essential. We have to look at it long term, and whatever we're doing, just to ensure that we see it 4 years out, 5 years out. So as long as we're creating those plans and ensuring that we're measuring this as we go along and looking at it so that it becomes sustainable, it becomes commercially viable over a longer period of time, and that we're building the capacity of the people involved, because that's also missing, by the way. And I think that will take us a far way.
Well, this is why we have this program. I think the EU and JSIF, when they were having the Sport as a Business panel, they thought of putting some of our best people together. Norman, you get the last word before we take the question and answer.
Listen, this is a land of talent. And everything that we put our hands to, our feet to, we into...
By the way, that's a potential name for a film, Land of Talent.
Right? So
I just gave somebody an idea.
Whether we do bobsleigh, whatever, and right, we're talented. What needs to happen is for us to package it properly. We are too small an economy to really thrive here. We have to depend on expanding in the rest of the world.
Right.
So what is important is that we collaborate, but we own it.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to end this panel.
We own it.
Thank you very much. We're now going to be taking some question and answers. And we're going to go to the Q&A section where we ask you some questions and, you kind of just tell us how.
How do you decide on a strategy when entering contract negotiations?
Well, it depends on who, but one important thing when I'm looking at a negotiation is first I'm looking at who I'm sitting at the table with to negotiate with. I'm going to use the context of an athlete since, if I'm looking to align one of my athletes with a brand, I'm looking at whether that brand is going to be able to provide them with some visibility in return. I want to know that this is a brand that is able to do things in a way that will align with the strategy that I have for that particular athlete. So it's more of a relationship building for me to begin with. And then from there, anything I'm doing, I want to look at it long term as well, because there's no point when I'm negotiating in doing something that is short term and then I've closed the window on that category. Because certainly, Carol, if you're aligned with a particular brand in a category, somebody else is unlikely to look at that brand in a few years. So I have to ensure that there is something long-term there in terms of that association.
Right.
Those are some of the things. And then from there, I know what the athlete value is. I know it's going to grow over time. If you look at the social numbers for any of my athletes, you see that they move pretty rapidly because there is a plan. So ensuring that we get the right value for that in terms of money.
From a business perspective, what advice would you give to upcoming athletes?
Business is an attractive business. It is a very, very lucrative business. So the first thing I want them to do is to take it seriously. Right? There is, they're young, and so their evolution is mental evolution is certainly not at my old age. So I want them to take it seriously and then to understand that the product that is being manufactured and sold is them. Right? So as a result, they have to ensure that every step that they take is properly thought through, pre-planned, and executed.
Yes.
Right? So the two words is take it seriously and to plan.
Plan. Oh, so planning is common between you two, Tanya and Chris. And Norman, so you get the last word. You, I think, are the architect of sports management in Jamaica. I could almost say that because you have managed one of our greatest sport assets in the last 20 years. What advice do you give if people want to enter that business?
Don't do it, no. It depends. I mean, if you're coming in to manage athletes, there's so much. Don't think of it as, people, this thing is like a hobby kind of thing. It's a business. I mean, you're dealing with corporations that have headquarters around the world, offices around the world, people with masters, PhDs, these companies are on the stock market, stuff like, you understand me? So when they come, when you sign on to these people, it's big business, and get some training. If you're going to get into the business, be trained. It's not, to be a man. I have a business degree, I have experience in tax, I've gone on to further myself. I got myself licensed as a securities dealer in Jamaica. I just did a project management course.
Right.
Finished last night, So you have to get yourself organized because look at you saying, I mean, it started out of just a hobby, you know, starting into being a professional at a low entry level, and you got on to be the biggest person. Now you're gonna have to, as you go along, deal with people at different levels, legal teams,
everybody,
people in government. There are various contracts that you have to work on that is just not the usual endorsement. It's about working out a formula in terms of a royalty deal and, you know, stuff like that. So as you go along, qualify yourself. It is the same kind of business approach, the functions and management, stuff like that. But then you read up on the industry itself and build relationship with people, because that's how it is. Because some of the sports are closed, like a cricket and a track and field. You don't walk around like a footballer and a basketballer and know exactly what money you're going to get. You understand me? So there are things that you have to do if you want to get into the business. Qualify yourself, be patient, and number one is be honest, because your integrity is what is going to carry you through these two sports.
All right, thanks. This has been the EU JSIF Entrepreneurship Virtual Expo. The topic was sport as a business. It was brought to you by the kind courtesies of Flow Foundation. I was your host and moderator, Carole Beckford.
Good day. My name is Christopher Denny. I'm with Mundo Finance, and I'd like to talk to you about accessing finance for small, medium enterprises. Now, why do we want to talk about this? If you have ever had a business idea, if you ever saw an opportunity to make a quick buck, ladies and gentlemen, you are possibly a small business person, and you would need to get it started, you would need to get financing, right? The genesis of any small business is a good business idea, right? So let me tell you about my brother, who in the early 90s, when he came back to Jamaica, he saw an opportunity to bring a particular service to all those persons who serve food on the side of the road along the Red Hills Road corridor, the Mannings Hill Road corridor, and Constant Spring, where he would deliver meat to them just when they needed it at the price that was best for them on a regular basis, so that they didn't have to leave their shacks, they didn't have to store large amounts of that product, and from then until now, he has run a successful business and taken care of his family. Small business is very important in Jamaica. Small business is, at the same time, very risky. The experts say as much as 50% of all small businesses will fail within 1 year. But at the same time, a lot of new small businesses are emerging and coming into their own. So it's a risky thing. But how do we finance small business? The best place to start, ladies and gentlemen, is with your own pocket, right? It's your idea. It should be good enough for you to put your money in it. That is where you should start. As it gets bigger and you may need more capital, my encouragement to you is the next place to go is to your friends and your family. Now, why would you want to go there first before going to a bank? Well, your friends and family know you. They understand you. They would know that it's a good idea to invest with you. If you go to the bank too early in the day, they're not going to be familiar with you. You're not going to be able to successfully obtain a loan. And plus, if anything goes wrong, it's better that you work it out with friends and family than with the bank, who could be a lot harsher. So you want to bear in mind that there are these options. Now, as your business gets bigger and more mature, you're going to develop the ability to show your creditworthiness, and then you can come to a bank to seek financing. And larger entities that have really grown and shown their creditworthiness over a period of time can even raise credit rating, debt financing from investment houses and securities dealers. But I should also mention microfinance. Microfinance entities that we have so many of these days can lend you money on a personal basis that can help you to start your business. Now, what types of financing are there? Because I mentioned that you could you start with your own pocket, you can go to your friends, you can go to your family, but what types of investments can you look for? Well, with banks, you will get the following options: ordinary loans, and you will have various types of loans that are really just ordinary loans. I want to talk a little bit about ordinary loans because what happens with it is that you borrow the entire amount at one time and then you pay it back over a period of time. The cost of an ordinary loan tends to be in the mid-range, right, as far as the cost of debt is concerned. When we look at overdrafts, for example, which is another option, it tends to be a little bit more expensive. It usually has to be secured, and that is something that you can draw on just when you need it. So if I were to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of an ordinary loan versus an overdraft you can draw on it just when you need it, and you can actually control that cost by only having it outstanding for as long as you need to. Then you pay it down and off or out. Ordinary loans, you would have to pay back over time, and so for that reason, the price tends to be a little lower. A lot of us are involved in trade. Trade finance is another type of financing. We talk a lot recently about factoring, where a financer may come in and would pay you as a supplier and take the responsibility of recovering from the buyer. And they take a small margin when they do that. They call that factoring. I could talk to you about corporate credit cards, which is something that is very useful as well because you could pay for goods local and abroad using the right type of credit card. Now, those tend to be a little bit more expensive. Now, how do you qualify for a bank loan? How do you put yourself in a good position to be able to access credit? This is one of the troubling questions that people face. I like to talk about the 4 C's. Now, various bankers will have various different C's in their 4 C's. My preference is character, collateral, capacity, and capital, right? So it's character, collateral, capacity, and capital. Now, capital really looks at the fact that if you would like me to lend you money, you really should have something at stake in the business as well, right? Unfortunately, I've seen persons who have a business idea. They're not prepared to put anything into it, but they would like to borrow all the funds that are needed to run the business. That's not a good idea. You want to make sure you have something at stake in the business as well. It signals to the lender that because you have something at stake, you're going to push to make sure that everything works out and that the monies are repaid. Capacity. Now, when we talk about capacity, we're talking about your ability to actually repay because you're generating enough surplus funds. So we look at things like your top-line revenues, your gross profit, and your ultimate net profit after admin expenses to tell us whether or not you're generating enough income to be able to service a loan. We talk about collateral, right? And I know that this is something that is very topical for conversation because people feel that it's difficult to always provide collateral. But collateral gives the lender the comfort that once you have taken the funds, if anything goes wrong, they're going to be able to recover the funds that they need to recover by dispensing with the collateral. The collateral, though, has to be of a particular liquid type. It has to be very liquid. And generally, you will find that they would look at real estate, motor vehicles, or even financial investments as the forms of collateral that they will accept. And then character. Character has to do with what we can find out about you and your willingness to service debt when you're supposed to. So we would talk to the people who supply you with goods to see whether or not their experience with you is that you pay regularly and on time. We would talk to the persons that you've borrowed from before to see whether or not you service that debt well. In the market these days, we have credit bureaus that will give us a credit rating for you, and that measure will tell us something about whether or not you have the kind of character that shows you're going to be able to handle your obligations in a responsible way. I want to give you 5 tips. Could we talk about the 4 C's and how you demonstrate creditworthiness when you're being considered for financing? The 5 tips that I want to give you that I think they will help you to prepare and be ready for those challenges, right? The first thing is that you must have regular, up-to-date financial records, right? And bank statements handy. Every credit assessment is going to ask to look at maybe 3 to 5 years of your financial reports. If they're not audited, they will accept unaudited, but you got to have that kind of information ready to go if you want to be assessed seriously. 2, up-to-date valuations for key assets, so that when they are assessing the prospect of using those assets as collateral, there's recency in the value that they're looking at so that they can anticipate against realizing that asset based on the current context. So it's important to have that ready to go and have that ready ahead of time. Thirdly, it is a good idea to have within the culture of your business what is called good corporate governance. You want to have a proper structure in your business. You want to have good leadership on hand and responsibilities properly delegated, designed to allow for business continuity. You're not relying on any one person as a key in the business. You have the responsibilities nicely distributed. You want to have a board so you get good guidance from the top all the way down throughout the organization. You want to have good business plans that you refer to as you conduct your business and that you're constantly revising it and updating it. Fourthly, you want to be responsible with your obligations, with all of your debt and payment obligations. So you want to pay your utilities on time, your supply bills on time, and you want to demonstrate that you have that kind of character in dealing with your obligations. And fifth, you want to succeed in business. And I know that sounds kind of obvious, but it's important that you understand your business, that you're successful at doing it, because it becomes your best reference when you're seeking to get financing. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the special items that are available in the market. And rather than trying to tell you about everything that is everywhere, I've decided to home in on 2 organizations. The Development Bank of Jamaica. Their mandate is to facilitate business growth and business development in Jamaica and employment through small business. They have nearly 20 different areas of special focus and products that they offer in the market to achieve that mandate, and I want to share 9 of them that I've selected with you. First of all, voucher for technical assistance. This is a funding program that will help you to get the technical assistance that you need to manage and administer your business effectively. It helps you to develop the skill sets that you need in your business to be more effective. And this will be financed by the voucher for technical assistance through the DBJ. Secondly, the innovation grant for new ideas and entrepreneurship is called the Ignite program. You can get up to $4 million to help your business develop innovative approaches to delivery, right? And so that's going to be important in a changing world where you want to make sure that you're as efficient and as innovative as possible. The DBJ will help you to conduct an energy audit. So if you consume a fair bit of energy in the production of your goods and services, it's important to do an energy audit and get an idea as to how you can consume energy more efficiently, whether you could not reduce your costs by virtue of that review. I know of one example recently where an energy audit was done in a home, and it turned out that 1/3 of all the electricity was being consumed by one water pump. That simply was just an expensive variety water pump. And once that was changed, there was a dramatic fall to the power bills at that particular location. So having an energy audit is a good idea. 4, capacity development grants, which means that your business wants to have good capacity. You want to be able to produce effectively and in good volumes, and you want to be able to use your resources efficiently. The DBJ will help you with up to $7 million that they will participate with you in a 70-30 basis to help you to develop and improve your capacity. Jamaica Foundation for Competitiveness and Growth Project, where you can get up to US $350,000 on offer to help make you more competitive. So this helps to position you in the market. It helps you with marketing. It helps you with developing key business relationships and to access the success that you pursue. There's a renewable energy line of credit. The cost of electricity in Jamaica, I think, is rated somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 cents per kilowatt hour. With a proper renewable energy solution, you could dramatically cost the per kilowatt hour cost of your business. You can dramatically drop the cost of energy in your business. The DBJ World Bank Energy Efficiency, Conservation, Renewables. By the way, the mention I made before of the renewable energy funding is for individuals, but they also have it for small businesses. So, and you can get up to $30 million to fund your energy solution, your renewable energy solution, on a 70-30 basis. There is a DBJ Credit Enhancement Facility, and this is very important because we spoke earlier about using collateral to gain financing. And nearly all the options that I would have mentioned before, typically you're more effective in accessing finance if you can provide collateral. When you just start a business, it's hard for you to be able to provide all the collateral that is needed. Well, the DBJ has been able to secure support to enable a credit enhancement facility which will guarantee up to 50% of your loans with a participating authorized financial institution. And I'll talk about one after this as an example. So that means that you can get the support you need to better qualify for the financing that you need. DBJ World Bank SME loan for targeted industries. So they want to support specific industries. Those industries include, but are not limited to, tourism, manufacturing, information technology, mining, and the services industry. So if you happen to be in one of those industries, and there's more information available at the DBJ website, I think there are other industries that might be listed, you can get up to $30 million for up to 6 years to help you to structure and finance your business. Now I want to talk a little bit about NCB, because most of the facilities that I spoke about that are offered by the DBJ, they're actually offered through participating authorized financial institutions, of which the National Commercial Bank is one. But they have gone further. They have put together an enormous fund of up to 20 billion Jamaican dollars to make it available to you in small businesses and businesses throughout Jamaica for as low as 6.5% per annum. Now, this is going to be available for a wide range of loan types and for a wide range of purposes. So you want to go in and check out what the possibilities would be for you as soon as possible. Special pricing, though, is going to be limited to those facilities that are secured. All right? There are partial guarantees available, as I mentioned before, through the same DBJ CEF fund, the Credit Enhancement Fund or facility. And then there is, I want to talk to you about the Merchant Advance Facility. The way that facility works is that if you are a merchant and you have one of the NCB merchant machines and you use this machine to receive payments for your goods and services, on a monthly basis you can get, not on a monthly basis, you can access financing based on your monthly intake. It's usually a multiple of what you take in per month through the merchant payment device. So for example, if you were able to earn $1 million in revenues per month that are taken in through your merchant device, that are actually credited to your account there, you can get a multiple of that as financing that is unsecured by NCP if all of the things are in order. There's a quick biz facility that is really the exclusive domain of NCP clients, so you want to consider becoming a client, and at least for 1 year. And once you're creditworthy, you can access that facility. So in a nutshell, my advice to you to be successful at accessing the financing that you need to be successful at what you do. You need to plan what you do and plan it well. And you need to be responsible in the way you conduct your business. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
What do I need to have in place to get funding for my next big idea?
So I mentioned some of that before. To get funding for your big idea, you need to be prepared to show or demonstrate your credit worthiness. So having up-to-date financial statements, 3 to 5 years at the very least, if not audited, unaudited might be acceptable. If you plan to use collateral, you want to have up-to-date valuations that are immediately available, and you want to be able to demonstrate the right type of creditworthiness in terms of how you handle your obligations on a regular basis and be able to provide that information. Yes.
Is it wise to use a loan to start my business? Is that starting in debt?
So my advice would be to avoid that if you can. I mean, I can't make an absolute statement that it's always unwise to borrow to start a business, but it really does put you under a lot of burden, especially given the terms of what that debt arrangement might be. My advice, as I said earlier, is to start with taking money from your own pocket or working with those who know you well, those who are close to you, your friends and your family, to help you to finance your business startup. And then through that effort, you'll be able to demonstrate the success ability of your business. And later on, you can qualify for financing when it's safer and you're sure you can repay that money.
What is the easiest way to gain funding?
The easiest way to gain funding, so it depends on what funding means. But if the idea is to borrow funding, my advice is to succeed in business for 3 to 5 years and make sure that along the way you maintain proper records, you maintain good business relationships, you're responsible with your financing, and then be prepared to demonstrate all of that when you go into the bank.
I've tried multiple financial institutions, but all I keep getting is roadblocks. How do I push past?
There may be ways to be innovative in meeting with the needs of your lender, and you want to have a proper discussion to ventilate all the possible options. So, for example, typically if you're looking at assets that don't meet the criteria of the mainstream assets that are used for collateral, if you were able to determine how those assets could be liquidated to help that lender to understand why it's good security, that would be good. But if you're having challenges with the documentation, I would encourage you to prepare yourself better before making that approach, so that you have the documentation before you go in.
I've gone to the major financial institutions and they want all of this, proof and documentation for my big idea, but I really don't have any. Is there any way to make this process easier?
If you've gone to a number of institutions and you have not been able to succeed in obtaining financing, I think it's important that we know why. Why is that happening? If your business is viable and it can deliver a good return, and in fact you do have a track record of success, I would expect you to be able to succeed. But again, as I indicated earlier, those who know you well and those who know you better may be a good point of stop for you to check for financing from them, because that may give you the start that you need so that later on you can demonstrate your success ability to the wider finance community.
I need help with the financial side of my business plan. Which service, preferably online, is best suitable for me?
There's going to be any number of options that you could take, and I'm thinking you're talking here about how you do your business planning and prepare your business ideas. I know that the JBDC, the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, does offer business planning support. I believe that there are offices within JAMPRO that can provide that kind of support and guidance as well. But I think one of the things that you should do is do your business plan yourself. You're the person that wants to run the business. You should plan it. So I would download one of those questionnaires that you could find online or use a software that may be available again online, and take yourself through the questions that it asks, put your ideas together, and prepare your business plan on your own.
My name is Alison Miller. I'm a senior project economist at the Planning Institute of Jamaica. Social enterprises and community-based organizations are geared towards improved access to education, skills training, and life skills training, which promotes income generation at both the individual and community levels. These social enterprises speak to manufacturing and production in our country. Manufacturing is key as it directly benefits our economy through these learned skills. This allows persons to generate income. The development of these communities is critical to the success and growth of our country.
My name is Ryan Holder. I'm a Senior Manager, Social Development, Monitoring and Evaluation at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. These social enterprises and community-based organizations work with persons with disabilities, whether they're blind, visually impaired, deaf, or with other challenges. The focus is on their ability, not their disability. Through access to education, life skills, and skills training, they build their self-confidence, which leads to them being strong, independent, contributing members of their community. This type of inclusive development is critical to the success and growth of our nation.
The Portmore Self-Help Disability Organization was started out of my own personal experience after becoming a person with a disability or living with a disability. We have the Mobility Resource Center, which we offer training in soap making, natural soap making, jewelry making, earrings, beads, necklace, etc. We do cushions, we do slippers, and we do leathercraft. We do wheelchair repairs. While we collect hundreds or thousands of wheelchairs in the island, there's no place to repair them other than the Portmore Mobility Resource Center. Other than that, we repair other mobility aid, walkers, crutches, etc. It is all done by persons with disability. The Portmore Self-Help Disability Organization is there for all persons with disability, all persons. Whatever your situation, you just need somebody to talk to, some counseling. If you need to get back into society and don't know how to do it, you just need to come to the Portmore Self-Help Disability Organization. Disability is not a death sentence, it's a life sentence, and we all have to live through that. So you can live after your disability. I am living.
You can support members of the disabled community through the Portmore Self-Help Disability Organization by purchasing their handcrafted jewelry. They are also one of the only places that repair wheelchairs, walkers, and crutches.
My name is Marilyn McCoy. I'm the Executive Director of the Jamaican Association on Intellectual Disabilities. This organization serves persons with intellectual disabilities in Jamaica. JAID, for short, operates a social enterprise known as CHOOPS. This social enterprise was established in 2011 specifically to provide employment support for young adults with intellectual disabilities who have high support needs. We have three basic goals. One is to produce quality fashion accessories incorporating coffee beans and other natural materials made in Jamaica. The other goal is to improve or to expand our market base across Jamaica and by extension the region. And another goal is to ensure that we continue to provide a niche market, an extensive niche market here in Jamaica. Currently we operate in Kingston, but we have persons with intellectual disabilities right across this island. So if we're able to expand to other locations across the island, then CHOOPS would be in a better position to ramp up, to increase, to produce more for sale.
You can support those with intellectual disabilities through the Jamaica Association on Intellectual Disabilities by purchasing CHOOPS jewelry. Contact them on Facebook at CHOOPS, CHUPSE, or email them at chupsejamaica@gmail.com.
My name is Kimberly Sherlock Marriott Blake. I am the Executive Director of the Jamaica Association for the Deaf, the parent company for the JAD binders. The bindery would have been started back in the 70s, but we moved now into restoring books, trying to keep those things that really mean something to people. We have quite an array of products, so we're making gift boxes, presentation boxes. We make books now. A very major product of ours is our flagship gratitude journal. So for us, it's employment of the deaf, but also meeting the needs through books and very special items for people. One of the things that we definitely would need to be able to grow is a larger space. A space that we can call home, that will be large enough for our production line, provide us with the opportunity to employ more deaf persons, and of course just give us that additional room to store things. So when persons call and ask for a large order of more than 20 books, we're able to say, yep, we have those in stock, and we're able to serve at that point in time.
I was about 14. I was about 14 years old when I started going to school there. Yes, I make books, I bind books, different things I do at the Jamaica Association for the Deaf. I love to work with computers. Yes, I like the different styles that I am learning. I like to see what Desmond is doing, and I learn a lot from him, deep learning.
Support the deaf community. Call JAD Binders for all your book repairs and bindery services. Novelty items are also available. You can reach them at 876-977-5046 or 299-6546 or at jabinders.com.jm.
Today I'm sharing some insights on the lessons learned and the unprecedented actions that were required during the COVID-19 pandemic. The roles and responsibilities of many business leaders have changed dramatically in the past 10 months. Before COVID-19, CEOs and other executives in high-growth companies were focused on fostering innovation, driving revenue, and gaining market share. Today, many of those same leaders must make rapid decisions about controlling costs and maintaining liquidity. I know this only too well because I, along with my team, have had to make some of those same decisions. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Ultimately, the pandemic tested our resolve as we adapted to a new norm in a changing business environment. But in our industry, disruptions are not new to us. It is our way of life as we respond to new technologies rolled out almost every single day. In times of uncertainty, a business needs a leader with the right temperament, character, and sound judgment who will make the tough, unpopular decisions. So then, what were some of the lessons that we learned? As country manager of a leading communications and entertainment firm, it was no easy feat keeping my ship steady in what can be described best as a defining moment in business, with companies struggling to find new ways to survive. The result? Significant reductions in revenues and margins, reinventing business models, facilitating team members working from home adapting to disruptions in supply chains and keeping our people, businesses, communities, and our country connected. Despite the setbacks, however, there was an opportunity to rethink our business and make the changes required to come out of the crisis stronger and prepare our business for the future. My approach to leadership during this period has been based on 3 C's: communication, collaboration, and compassion, a formula which has proven to be truly successful and works equally well for all small businesses. Let's talk about the first C, communication. Before initiating any communication with team members, customers, or stakeholders, a leader must first pause and take a breath. In a crisis, it's tempting to jump from one urgent task to the next, to take charge of what's right in front of you, to just execute. But this can be a costly mistake. Research shows that the simple act of pausing, even for as little as 50 to 100 milliseconds, allows the brain to focus on the most relevant information. Ongoing communication with team members, customers, and other stakeholders has been a key factor in reassuring everyone that all initiatives implemented during this time, physical distancing and sanitization protocols, are designed for their safety and protection. From the outset of the pandemic, we established daily meetings with key senior leaders across our entire business for information sharing and important updates. External customers were and still are being kept updated via direct communication or social media channels, as well as statements and interviews via the media. During a crisis, people want information, and we therefore can never communicate too much. We have a duty to share the relevant updates in a calm, confident, consistent, and measured manner. Now to the next C, collaboration. As the pandemic became real, our team turned to our guiding philosophy, established by our business. When we collaborate, we all win, especially for our customers. We worked around the clock to come up with alternative ways to serve our staff from the safety of their own homes, and to simultaneously keep team members motivated and employed. We use daily check-ins, weekly check-ins and meetings, virtual lunch and learn activities, online games nights, believe it or not, virtual church services, virtual gym sessions, which continue today, and counseling services for team members who need that amount of additional support. I'm extremely proud of the innovative work and dedicated commitment our team members exhibit on a daily basis while caring for each other and the communities we serve, navigating health and safety concerns as they support their families through the pandemic. We leverage the available conferencing tools and are having meetings via Teams, Zoom, WebEx, and Livestream. Even our end-of-year team party for 2020 was held via Zoom. We collaborate with several cross-functional, multinational teams working throughout this entire pandemic as we share best practices and learnings from markets right across the region. We also encourage the input of all team members across the business, so there is shared ownership in the execution of our strategies. Strong leaders get ahead of changing circumstances. They get ahead of the curve. They seek input and information from diverse sources and are not afraid to admit that they don't know. And the final C in my leadership approach is that of compassion. In a crisis, leaders are expected to be sensitive to overworked employees, show an interest in their lives, be willing to help with their problems, and be compassionate when they share their troubles. In our business, compassion is at the heart of what we do. Compassion for our team members, our customers, and the wider community. As soon as the pandemic became apparent, the safety of our team members, their families, our customers, and the communities in which we operate became our #1 priority. We were fast out of the blocks with the launch of work-from-home arrangements, for all our team members in our non-customer facing spaces, even before the announcements from the government. For team members in the customer facing spaces, we implemented measures to protect both our team members and our customers. These included enhanced sanitization protocols and equipping them with the appropriate PPEs, personal protective gear. We also limited the number of customers in our stores based on the government's guidelines. During the crisis phase of the pandemic, our retail team members were transported daily from and to their homes on dedicated buses. Our most vulnerable team members were redeployed to back office duties. Our technicians conduct initial assessments during appointment scheduling. These include ascertaining whether anyone in the household has exhibited symptoms or has been tested for COVID-19. Where there are concerns, we use other methods including remote troubleshooting to serve our customers who may be displaced by the protective measures. If that does not resolve the issue, we'll reschedule the appointment to 14 days later. Let's now focus on some of the opportunities presented during the crisis phase of the pandemic. John F. Kennedy once observed that the word crisis in Chinese is composed of two characters. One represented danger, the other opportunity. He may not have been entirely accurate on the linguistics, but the sentiment reflects a choice which is so relevant today. Around the world, beer makers and distilleries shifted production to hand sanitizers in response to the pandemic. In Italy, a startup engineering company began quickly using 3D printers to produce the valves used in ventilators, which are saving lives today. In our business, we launched virtual stores during the crisis phase of the pandemic, which operated alongside physical stores up to late last year. The stores offered all the products and services accessible to walk-in customers and allowed us to deliver services to Jamaicans and for them to remain connected. We also looked at our elderly and others who are not able to either visit the physical stores or access the virtual stores. In order to facilitate them, we implemented roving stores, which visited communities across Jamaica to deliver products and services. My final thoughts on leading through a crisis. In summary, the COVID-19 pandemic has really brought home the value of knowing our purpose as an organization, understanding our why. We've communicated consistently with all stakeholders. We've exercised empathy to all stakeholders because we're all in this together. And we've maintained our promise to our customers. I close by borrowing a quote from Kevin O'Leary, the entrepreneur and co-star of the Shark Tank. The key is to keep the DNA of a business intact so that when we come back out of this incredible, unique situation, we have all the building blocks we started. Thank you.
My name is David Silvera. I'm the head of the business unit at Mustard Seed Communities. Mustard Seed Communities was started a little over 40 years ago. It's an NGO that cares for the disabled, both physically and mentally disabled. We also care for most of the HIV/AIDS children in Jamaica, as well as we have a home for abused pregnant teens called Mary's Child. Almost since its inception, Mustard Seed has realized that part of caring, and for many charities, one of the hardest parts is to get the funds to do that. So they've always had a policy of social enterprise. The first one we had was actually started by Cecil Baugh, who was a Jamaican master potter, who started a ceramic and pottery program. Since then we've expanded into farming. We have egg project where we provide eggs to some hotels, some wholesales, a few supermarkets. We have a honey project which is new, which we're just starting. And then we also do agriculture. We have greenhouses, mainly for in-house use, with some farm gate where people in the communities where we are come and buy from us as well. There are many people who support us based on the fact that what we do, and they know that the proceeds are going to a good cause. So you may go in a supermarket and you see MSC eggs and they may be $10 more than some other egg, but you know that all the proceeds are going to care for the disabled. We have a very large volunteer program, and we have mission groups that come. We have been caring for the disabled and the most vulnerable members of society for more than 40 years. So we have a track record, and any assistance or help that you give Mustard Seed will be used responsibly and in the right manner.
You can support the disabled and the physically challenged by purchasing mustard seed labeled eggs in your local supermarket. Volunteers are also welcomed.
Good day. I'm here to talk to you about the business of sport. Sport, business. As a child of the 70s and 80s, those two really never mix. And for those of us that were around at that time, we know that we had to focus on schoolwork, and sport would never be considered a business. But today, things are a lot different. But you ask yourself the question immediately, what is sport? And sport is a very complex topic, a complex thing, because sport covers a lot of areas. When you think about sport, you think about all forms of competitive activity. You think about all the casual participation, and of course, sport provides entertainment. But the truth is that sports is universal. And because sports is universal, it is a universal language. It's a universal language socially, it's a universal language financially, and it's a universal language economically. But as I said, sport is complex. And why is sport so complex? First, sport is recreation. I do sport, you do sport, all of us do sport. The people that jog, the people that walk, everybody does sport. So sport first is recreation. Sport is also competition. Truthfully, most of us like competition. From way back when, everybody has been doing competitions, and that has been a natural part of sports. So you have age group competitions and you have different types of competitions. But then sport becomes entertainment. And when we talk about sports as entertainment, we're talking about spectatorship. We're talking about eyeballs, whether live or at home. So the sports as entertainment, and that is where a lot of people focus, because sports as entertainment is really what we see when we get home, or when we go to the game, or when we go out and watch our children play. So it's very complex. And then you come to the tough part of sports, and that is now the business side. The truth of the matter is most persons don't know that only, like in football, only 2% of all the footballers that play professional sport are professional. So you roughly have about 600,000 professionals in sport and football right now. But that's the part that now generates a lot of the money. So between the entertainment and the professional side, that's where a lot of the finances is generated. Now, sport is part of the recreation market. The recreation market, I would say the value now is about $1.4 trillion. The estimate as of 2018, that's at the end of 2018, for the sports segment of the recreation market is about $500 billion. Now, that's a lot of money. Any way you check it, any way you look at it, any way you want to observe it. So the value of sport is unquestionable, and it has been one of the few industries that continues to grow at over 6% a year as we go through the sport. But when we're speaking about sport, and especially when you're talking about the business of sport, it's important that you cover certain areas. So let's talk about the areas that must be covered when you talk about sport, because sport is like any other business. You have to do a level of strategic planning. And when you're doing strategic planning, and I believe it's up on the board behind us, and I want us to look at it very quickly and focus on it. Because if you don't plan, you're going to plan to fail. So it's important that as you think about the business of sport, and as you think about putting together the business in which you're going to do sport, you talk about a strategic plan. So here's a basic strategic model. We're not going to do a strategic planning session today. What we're going to do is just touch on it very quickly. So you want to think about where are we now? Where do we want to be? How can we get there? And of course, that will allow you to set your strategic objectives and your goals. And then what is needed to get there? That's typically where most businesses fail, and definitely you will fail if you get into the business of sport. You must set some action plans, and you must set a budget. And last but not least, you must look at evaluation and monitoring. The implementation stage is where most businesses fail. The truth of the matter is, that business failure is just a part of life, and it will not be different in the business of sport itself. So monitoring becomes very critical as we speak about strategic planning. So implementation is key, and that requires evaluation and monitoring. And that's just like in any business. So don't think that because it is sport, it's going to be treated any differently than any other business, so you must have a strategic plan, right? Fundamental to any business, and there's a lot of discussion now, whether you are in the US because of the elections, or whether you're in Jamaica, talking about what's happening in terms of particular political situations. Governance is fundamental. And the main objective you have of governance is to clarify the roles of all the persons there. You can't have a building without a proper foundation. And that is why governance, and let me be even more correct and say good governance is critical. Because you can have governance like you have in the places that I mentioned, but you need good governance in your business when you're talking about sports. So let's talk about quickly some steps to good governance. You want to have a clear strategy. You want to ensure that your constitution, and I say that loudly, constitution is properly structured and properly done, and if necessary, identify the improvements. You want to have proper stakeholder involvement. You want to ensure that you promote ethical values and promote the concept of good governance, because it must be continuous throughout your entire organization, and you must be professional in the way that you do things. You want to focus on administration, accountability, and making sure that you are transparent, especially in your financial dealings. And a big word now is compliance. So people might say, boy, why is Howard talking, why Big Mac talking about sport and the business of sport and talking about good governance? Because fundamental to any business being sustainable and operating on a long-term basis, especially in an area like sport, is good governance. And that is what is affecting many of the organizations, some of which I've worked with, like FIFA and CONCACAF, because the governance was not properly structured, and the good governance has now come in to make sure that the business affairs run well. Communications. Fundamental to any relationship is communications. And to the extent that you build a good communication strategy, it's going to help in your determining the success of your business. So you must have excellent communications and don't think of it as a waste of money. So the next aspect of your business that's critical is your marketing. That's going to be at the heart of your success of your business, because that's now going to be dealing with your sponsorship, it's going to be dealing with your media relationships, it's going to be dealing with your promotions, and it's going to be dealing with your sales. And so, people kind of talk about it like marketing is easy. It is not. That's what's going to build your brand. That's when you're going to set the expectations of the public, and that's when you're going to build your reputation. And your success rests on having a solid reputation. Fan engagement. I spoke earlier about the fans and spectatorship. In the business of sport, you must think about how you're going to engage your fans. You must think about how you're going to get eyeballs. You must think about how you're going to make those fans happy. Especially now, post-COVID, fan engagement or fan re-engagement becomes a critical part of whatever it is you're doing in any business related to sport. Event management. Some people think that event management is easy. It's not. Especially when you're having spectators. A lot easier now, especially when you're having sports around where you have no fans. But as soon as you introduce fans, the whole question of logistics and all that, you have to invest in terms of event management and make sure you keep your data on how your events go. Financial management. I don't think I need to say anything more except to say, if you don't do this one right, you're going to be wrong. And you need to understand that from the very beginning. I wanted to touch quickly on some lessons from COVID from a colleague of mine, Jeff Wilson, in a recent seminar he did covering the business of sport. If you're going into a business, just the same thing for sport, you have to know your industry. You have to plan. You have to develop your network. You have to start to review and look at how you're going to control costs. Sport, because of its connections, you may need to seek support from the government. Get to know and use technology. In the world that we're in now, you must use technology. Consider online training. Reconnect with your staff. And, this kind of sounds funny, but in this new environment, in the new normal, in the new business that we're going to be operating in, work from home. How do the logistics there work? And last, I want to tell you, reconnect with your family. Because you could have the greatest business in the world, but if you don't have your family, you're going to get into some trouble. So thanks to my friend Jeff for providing those lessons. And I want to say to you, as I said before, sport is just like any other business. The fundamentals remain the same, except you have a lot more work to do because primarily of the audience and the other stakeholders that you have. Life is sport, sport is life. And I said to you all, enjoy it, whatever it is that you're doing, even in the business of sport. I thank you.
As an athlete, is it necessary for me to know the business of sports?
I think the answer to that is very easy. The answer is a definite yes. Especially if you intend to become a professional athlete. Because as I said in the presentation, most of the athletes that are involved in sport are amateur, and very few are professional. But even as an amateur athlete, it's incumbent on you to spend some time learning about the business side. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. But definitely, if you're going to become a professional athlete, you must learn the business of sport. And if you don't learn it, and even then, you should still learn it. Even if you have a good agent and even if you have good people around you, you should still at least learn it, just like in any other business, so that you're able to properly look at the plan that they have for you, because at the end of the day, it's your success.
How do I pivot as an athlete with the uncertainties of today's world?
It's a tough question. Everybody is learning to pivot. So I guess when they do the checks on the words that trend the most during 2020, pivot will be one of them. Truth is, you're going to have to find out the strengths that you have and determine the areas that you might be able to pivot to. I know people in different industries now who are pivoting in areas that they never even thought about before. And so you have to look for the opportunities that match up with your skill set and your strengths. I always tell people, try and pursue your passion as much as possible. And I know COVID and this period has forced people to rethink a lot of things. And you should use that time for some introspection and then determine other possible areas. Maybe it's writing, maybe it's other areas, music, whatever. But you're going to have to do a lot of introspection to really answer that question properly. Our difference is our strength. My friend Rene Carriol from Gambia always said that. Our difference is our strength. Let us make sure we celebrate it. Blessing.
Ability Foundation was established in 1992 through lobbying efforts of persons within the disability sector who saw the need for having a skills training institution for persons who are disabled. We're the only one of its kind in the island that caters to all types of disabilities, and we've expanded our programs to best suit labor demands. So we really want persons who are disabled to be empowered, to be educated, have a skill, and know that they have a place also in the labor market.
I'm glad that I got the opportunity to attend abilities and learn a trade, and something that I love, so yeah, I won't get tired of it. If you could see my abilities behind my disability, then you will be so amazed. Not because I sit here doesn't make me less than what you believe. The time you're there judging me, take the time to learn about my disability. Once you have learned it, you will be amazed. I am the person. Indeed, I can make a change.
In 2019, we decided to venture into having a social enterprise. So we started an urban farm where we grow vegetables and herbs for persons in the community, persons in the neighboring community, and small restaurants in the community. We supply them with fresh vegetables and herbs. Definitely we want more persons to support us. The persons know, especially in that Constant Spring area, that we're there and come and support the cause, because whatever profits we make go back to the institution. So they're not just buying locally, but they're buying socially.
Please support the disabled of the Abilities Foundation by purchasing their farm produce from the location at 191 Constant Spring Road, Kingston. You may also place your order by calling 876-969-5720.
I'm Michael Barnett, the Executive Director of New Horizon Christian Outreach Ministries. We are born out of the vision to help young men beyond their 18th birthday. We recognize that there was much more young men out there that had the same needs, so the board made a decision to open its doors to walk-in clients and to teach just about any young man that would really need training. We have focused mainly on engineering skills. We have taught everything from welding, fabrication, electrical installation, maintenance, mechanical maintenance, plumbing. Those have been the really core subjects that we have focused on. The main goal is to teach young people on a whole their full potential. To teach someone our faith is not the aim, but the operating principles of the property are Christian. And we just want people to learn in a wholesome environment. We would really love to have much more machines to do the things that we need for training.
My name is Chris Patrick Stanford. I'm a member of the New Horizon Engineering Department. Well, growing up wasn't easy. Coming to Spanish Town and met the family of New Horizon really changed my life a lot. I have a lot of great experience working with New Horizon. Building machines, it was my dream from when I was a kid. So I can go anywhere in Jamaica to fix and build machines. And I'm certified as well. New Horizon has kept me off the streets, that's for a fact. Keep me occupied, keeping me busy, keeping me focused on work. It has done really good for me, and without that, I don't know what I would have been doing now.
Support at-risk youth through the New Horizon Christian Outreach Ministries. If you need a machine or gadget built, or have an engineering concept you want to bring to life, New Horizon is your ideal choice. You can contact them at 876-981-2125 or 881-8324.
Hello, my new network. Very happy to be here today at this Virtual Entrepreneurship Exposition 2021. A quick thank you to the EU and JSIF for their continued meaningful work in providing support to the entrepreneurial community, from persons thinking about starting a business, to small business, to medium business. This year's theme of perseverance during these challenging times is very appropriate. We are indeed in challenging times. There's beauty, however, in challenges. Most great leaps of mankind were achieved by persons rising to the challenge. Examples of this locally abound. The COVID-19 situation drove our universities to fix ventilator machines that have been laying idle in hospitals for years. Some local businesses have transformed themselves digitally. No need to visit their locations. just because of the challenges we have had. On a personal level, it made some persons declutter their lives, how to enjoy life with less. So today we're going to talk about how to make meaningful connections. Networking, and we really said business networking, but you could just say networking because we all do networking every day, whether it's personal, business. It's about making meaningful connections. What is it defined as? The action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop personal or professional contacts. Last time I checked, we all interact with others. I called my wife this afternoon to exchange gift ideas. I called an associate this morning for a link-up on Saturday to discuss a project. I bumped into a long-lost friend at the supermarket, and we caught up on a number of things. The list goes on and on and on. Where most of us fall short in this definition of networking is the second part of the statement, which is develop professional or social contacts. The focus here is on the word develop. We don't nurture, we don't fertilize these contacts once we have made them. So what we need to recognize is that to effectively network, you have to fertilize, you have to nurture. Networking is an investment. To make meaningful connections, it takes time and effort. How many of you have ever taken the time to call somebody you recently met, to just connect with them, not to ask them for business, maybe to ask how their business is going, or maybe to provide them with some interesting information in an area that you know they're interested in. It is Keith Ferrazzi who said that the currency of real networking is not greed, it's generosity. In essence, giving of your time and effort, you will reap what you sow. So the fact is, it is an investment, that it takes time and effort. It's important to understand why we need to do it, the importance of it. So we know it's an investment, but what are the benefits? And for a lot of people, if you don't internalize and understand the benefits, the why, your chances of doing it well will diminish. Actually, you probably won't do it at all, right? Some of us only act on the understanding of why it's going to benefit me. So it's important to understand. So what are the benefits? The list says it's all, or at least some of them. A lot of my most beneficial relationships are people that I met outside of my existing network. Whether it was to deepen friendships, whether it was to meet new partners, deepen existing client relationships, improve skills, all of these come from my networking efforts. The ability to get things done, to take up the phone and call somebody to help you with something, again, is an end result of effective networking. Against this backdrop, a backdrop of we all do it every day with family, friends, and network, against a backdrop of that it is connecting people, with ideas, with opportunities, a backdrop of it is an investment, it's about investing time and effort, a backdrop that there are immense benefits of growing relationships and business. Why don't people do it? And the simple answer is fear. Fear, fear, fear. As with most things in life, we find excuses.
A lot of times the underlying reason is fear. The fear comes out in our language. In the case of the language of I don't, right? I don't have a network to offer. I don't like attending functions. I don't like talking about what I do. Let's start saying I do, and I can, or I choose to. Recognize that it is you who makes the choice to make it happen. So in making it happen, you're probably asking yourself, I need to start doing this. What do I do next? What are some tips? By the way, if you're not asking yourself those questions, you need to start this video from the start. Restart it. However, for those who get it, let us address the mechanics of what to do now. Like anything in life, you have to do some homework, some groundwork. You have to figure out the who, the what, the where. This homework is so important, as if not done properly, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of I can't, of your I can't belief system. Or, as some people like to say, I don't see the benefit of networking, as your expectations won't meet reality. Building your engagement playbook. So having done your homework and answered the question of the who, the what, the where, the how, you need to figure out your own situation. The who and the what about me. If my networking efforts are about business, do I know my product or service? Do I know how people can contact me or find out about my service? Many times I've been in discussions with people and asked them, how can I contact them? And they don't even know the number of their business place. They don't know the email address. They don't know the website. So you need to have all of that information at your fingertips. You also have to decide, what do I want people to know about me? This is uncomfortable for a lot of people. They don't like to talk about what they do, as they feel they're bragging. Or, in some cases, they feel that what they're doing is not worthy of mention. Getting over this mentality has to be one of your first steps. This resonates with me personally because a friend in my network, and I mean a friend of a friend, but it's more than an acquaintance. I had known him for years. I see him out all the while socially, more socially. And one day, out of curiosity, I asked him what he did for a living. And it turns out he had a small courier company. I was stunned by this, and I said to him, you mean all these years we know each other, and you have never mentioned this to me? I could easily have directed business in your direction. Shockingly, but not surprisingly, his response was, you have never asked, so I never thought it important. At this point, please get out your pad and pen and do a note to yourself. It's not for them to ask. It's your responsibility to tell. How you tell is important. You have to tell in a way that's efficient, short, interesting, and memorable. That's the rationale, by the way, behind the elevator pitch, which you see on the slide behind me. You can say, I'm a plumber, which probably is forgettable. Or you can say, I'm the owner of Plumit Limited. We make home more enjoyable by ensuring water problems are solved on time and within budget. With formally trained experts equipped with select inventory, we provide a fix in one visit. On average, we give you back 4 hours in your busy day. In doing your homework, you'll find examples how to build your elevator pitch. Who is in my network? Again, coming back to the example earlier, a lot of people don't even know who is in their network, so they don't know what assets they have available to trade. And I use the word trade because it's about connecting people with people. So ask the question of people within your network and figure out who is in your network. So homework is done. Your engagement playbook is done. Now it's about practice and getting it done. When you're out there interacting with persons, make a conscious effort to observe people in action. The approach, the handshake, the getting to know you talk. Some people call it small talk. The exchange of information, the body language. Observe, observe, observe. Learn to truly listen. Learn to give someone your undivided attention. If you're speaking to someone and you keep breaking the conversation to answer your phone or respond to a WhatsApp, you're sending the message that what that person has to say isn't important. And trust me, they recognize that. So for you to call them a day later or 2 days later, and they don't respond to your call or don't respond to your messages, there are no surprises there. Find a reason to follow up. And by the way, calling to remind the person, I'm the plumber you met, and I'm checking if you need a plumber, is not what I'm talking about. That's sometimes a little too hardcore. That's straight sales. Here on this, in this discussion, we're more talking about building meaningful connections and network. So if you're going to call the person, it's better you call them to say, you know, I just calling you because we had a very good discussion, and during the discussion, you mentioned that you're a foodie. And I recently discovered a great new eating spot that I think you should try. Right? All you're doing is offering information. For every type of engagement, whether face-to-face, online, social media, there's a right and wrong in the approach. The right or wrong is not only platform dependent, because every platform has its protocol, it's also age dependent. What you'll get away with interacting with one age demographic, you won't get away with interacting with another age demographic. It's gender specific. So learn and invest the time to understand what is right, what is wrong, what is appropriate. And that will help you in terms of how do I figure out tapping into my network. And in doing that, by the way, talk to people in your network, talk to persons in all age groups in your network to learn about the right or wrong way, because they're experts. In my own life, a lot of times when I'm looking to do things in a social media platform, I talk to younger folks about how do you interact, what's the trend, how do you do an introduction to somebody, how do you get the conversation going? Because I left that world a little while ago, right? So it's important to tap the right persons with the expertise to get an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. With all that has been said, the last line you'll notice is do it, do it, do it. Don't worry about being technically correct. It's a muscle that if you flex, if you go out there, you introduce yourself to somebody and just start talking. Before this, you were quiet in a group when discussion is going on. Now I'm going to have something to say. Now in that moment of having a very great lime or, entertainment event, pull somebody aside to just understand a little more about them and what they do. The whole idea here is that it's about doing it. Practice makes perfect. So, hope you enjoyed it. Go network, go make those meaningful connections.
How do I get the first meeting?
How do I get the first meeting? That's a very loaded question because it depends on the intent. The intent is to deepen the relationship with this person? So that first meeting may not be a meeting in the classic sense. It may be an invitation to an event that you know that that person enjoys. So if you are going to the launch of a new liqueur and that person had expressed an interest in liqueurs, then extending an invitation to that person to accompany you on that. So it's not the meeting in the classic sense of going into an office. We're going to set up a formal time and have a meeting. So a lot about that first meeting is dependent on the intent that you hope to achieve in that first meeting.
Where do I need to go to meet the right people for my business?
Where do I need to go to meet the right people for my business? There's a range of options. So obviously, one is industry association. So whatever industry you're in, that's a good place to go and meet other people. Conferences, because conferences a lot of times are gathering of sellers of that service, and the buyers that attend, the reason they're there is to buy that type of service. So obviously conferences are good. In the online space, again, it mirrors the real world. So in the online spaces, it's participating in conferences, but you have some additional capability in the online space, through business networking sites like LinkedIn. So there are a variety of options. So either you focus on the industry associations, there are conferences, and then there's just leveraging people in your contacts who may have, who help to broadcast your own messaging to their network.
What are the steps to take to get my name on the guest list?
To get on a guest list, again, is tapping your network. It's really about who do I know that knows the person who is having the event, and whether or not I have enough currency with that person to ask them to get me on the list. So, that's the right way, because obviously if you're brought there by somebody who belongs there, you'll probably get more out of that event because, of course, they're there to introduce you and help you to make new contacts.
Is it professional to make contact via social media?
Oh, definitely. And this comes back to a point made earlier about understanding the protocol. It's totally appropriate. The key thing is to understand the audience. So obviously, there's age considerations, there is gender considerations, there's title considerations. So, some people, all of a sudden they say a CEO title and they want to connect with the CEO on LinkedIn, and the titles may not match. They might not see as much value in that connection, and you wonder why you don't get a connection. So it's almost making strategic decisions around, let me try and connect at this level, meet this person within the company, and then work my way up. So it is definitely appropriate, but you have to be strategic about it.
What are some of the tips to keep connection without quote-unquote stalking the person?
To keep the connection going, I think a lot of ways you have to have a genuine interest in people. So some people it's forced, some people it's natural. There are ways to force it where you schedule follow-up time in your day. Understand the intent here is not to fast-track a relationship because these things take time. Notice we said it takes time and effort. So, the whole idea is the follow-up must be meaningful, depending on the level of the person, obviously. There are some people running some very busy business. They don't have time for idle chat. So you trying to call them at the inappropriate time, you're going to get a response that turns you off and them off. So again, you have to be strategic about it. Do your homework, understand who you're trying to build this relationship with, and work on their time. It's not about your time. So, that's my word of advice.
Rosetown is a small inner-city community bordered by Maxfield Avenue and Spanish Town Road and Trenchtown. The Rosetown Foundation was established in 2010 to help to build the community through infrastructural projects and other social development activities. The Foundation's mission is to empower the community and to provide opportunities for them to develop. In 2017, we opened the Rollins Enterprise Center, which was actually an abandoned building that we've refurbished. It's in the middle of the community, which is divided, so it provides a hub that allows persons from both North and South Rosetown to come together. We have, that's where we run our after-school program. We recently got a computer lab put in there, which we now offer programs for what we call big people things. So adults over 45 can come and get basic computer training and skills. We also have a farm there, and we offer callaloo, spinach, various items to community members, and we also provide for cook shops in the area. Rosetown is also well known for its pottery. We have some of the best clay in the island, and we have very talented potters. So that's also a major source of craft and employment for community members. We seek support in kind. Come and see where we are in Rosetown, meet the people, and anything you can bring to the table, we'll be happy to work. We believe in partnership, and together we can really make a difference.
Support the vulnerable of the Rosetown community by purchasing their callaloo and other produce. To order, please visit their Facebook page at Rosetown Foundation or call Dean Gibbs at 876-586-4359.
Superior Crafts and More is about 13 years old. Under the new name. Formerly we were part of the Jamaica Society for the Blind Craft Unit, but 13 years ago we have launched out on our own as Superior Crafts and More. We do a training program, and out of that training program, if there is available space, we try and employ those persons back in the business. We teach them how to do craft and the wicker and the cane to let them know that not because they're not at a certain educational level, they can survive and find ways of income for themselves. One of the goals that we have is to grow the organization by trying to train and employ more persons. And one of our goals is to get more persons on board to help with the training.
For me, being at Superior Craft and More has been a great experience because, before I started there, I wasn't sure of what to do because I'm a mother of 2 children, and so I have a child now going to school, and so it was challenging for me. Since I started with Superior Craft and More, they have done so much for me. They have built me, my self-esteem, my whole me is a different me now. I now can go out and talk to people. I can now say I'm proudly working with Superior Craft.
Support the blind community of Superior Craft and More by purchasing wicker furniture and novelty items. They also offer wicker repairs. Their contact number is 876-648-6181.
The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, and the European Union, with the support of the Flow Foundation, wishes to thank you for supporting our first Virtual Entrepreneurship Expo. The next phase of your entrepreneurship journey will be a challenging yet rewarding one. Visit our website at JSIFExpo.org and YouTube to watch highlights from the Virtual Entrepreneurship Expo. Take the virtual tour and learn how you can support the social enterprises and community-based entrepreneurs that continue to make invaluable contributions to our country. JSIF sees investment in our entrepreneurs as one of the best and most valuable long-term investments that can be made. Thank you for your continued support.